Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Phillies show with Ruben, Amaro Jr., Jim Salisbury. I'm Todd Zolecki. It is Monday, May 6th, 2024. The Phillies are in position on Monday night to sweep a 4-game series from the Giants. They are 24-11. It is the best record in Major League Baseball. It is the Phillies' best start since 1995. They have a 2.5-game lead over the Braves, who are on pace to win 101 games. The Phillies are on pace to win 111 games. It's May 6th, but it's still worth pointing out they're off to a really, really good start. Everything is going very well for the Phillies, but they are about to face their first adversity, I guess you could say, this season. They lost Trea Turner for at least 6 weeks with a hamstring injury. I think this is a team that's about as well positioned to handle a loss of a superstar, as any team. Ruben, do you think this team is well positioned to handle Turner? I mean, compared to most other teams.
I really do, and the reason why I say that is just because of the length and breadth of their lineup offensively. And, Turner's been playing much better defensively this year than he did last year, just the eye test for me. But, and he worked very hard at, getting himself back to like more of an average infielder. But I think that the fact that the, guys like Bohm have stepped up, you're starting to see Stott get a little warmer. You haven't really gotten, the Bryce Harper yet. And Schwarber hasn't hit, the June home runs yet. So you're sort of don't have everybody working on all cylinders, but you still have, Marsh still pretty consistent. You have guys that are contributing. Castellanos has done literally nothing offensively. Right. And that yet, I think their pitching has obviously held it all together. Their starting pitching has just been off the charts. And so when you have that combination, I think you do fine. And let's think about it. Last year, they lost hard. They didn't have Harper for a long time. They kind of hung in there for a while. They've had a super start. They got a great head start on the season compared to last year. I mean, the run differential is like from this year to last year was like 75 is the difference or something like that. Some kind of crazy ass number like that. So it's, I think more than anything else, I mean, you have guys who can fill in. Now, shortstop's an important position. I do believe that at some point you may very well see Bryson Stott slide over to shortstop to take care of that position. I think that may very well happen. I haven't talked to Dombrowski and I have not talked to Rob Thompson directly about that. But my feeling, just because of the length and the length of the stint, that it sounds like it's like a grade 2 or whatever it is, hamstring issue, you may very well benefit from having Stott go to short. You get Merrifield some at bats at second base, and then you have a little bit more stability as far as the offense is concerned. Sosa will probably play some too. And actually Edmundo is much better at shortstop than he is in the other position on the field. So they won't lose much there, but I think that there's a possibility you might see that little change. But I think as far as being positioned, I mean, they're in a great spot, and I mean, they don't want to lose too many guys, but I think they're okay.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're, they have experience in dealing with adversity, as Ruben alluded to, with losing Harper. Really, each of the last 2 years not having such an important guy, and especially in 2022, he was out. I wish I had the numbers in front of me, but I think he was out like 52 or 3 games, and they went like 31-20 or something. So it's a real buzzword these days, resilience, and they've shown it in the past, and I think they can be it again. But as a practical matter, I do think they line up well to handle this. And it's a tough loss because Trea Turner's playing like the Trea Turner you expected. I mean, he's just been a hitting machine. But, I think JT, so far so good, right? They've played 2 games without him. JT has stepped in at number 2 and really swung it well. They've won both games. Obviously, they're on a roll. But I do agree with Ruben. I mean, Stott, natural shortstop, came up as a shortstop. but hasn't played there since 2022. No big deal. I think he can slide over there. And I think your best everyday lineup would include a lot of Whit Merrifield at second base. It looks like a pretty shrewd signing, and it also looks like that bat is heating up some. So, it doesn't help that they've added, they've padded wins. They've banked some wins here, and that's going to help. And that's the way you do it. So I think they can handle this and come out on the other side standing tall. And I don't think you rush Trea Turner. He's a legs guy, and you better be careful, like a pitcher with a groin pull on his push side. Trea Turner is a legs player, so he's got, and I think that's why they've probably set that conservative 6-week estimate. So I think they can come out the other side still smiling here.
It is funny when you think back to spring training and they signed Whit Merrifield to that 1-year, $8 million deal, and I think most people liked the move at the time, but a lot of people are like, wow, $8 million. This guy's he's never going to play. He's going to maybe play 2-3 times a week, and now he ends up becoming potentially a very important piece, maybe an everyday player while Turner's out. How often do you play Stott at short? Do you run him out there? Because it sounds like he is going to go out there at some point. I mean, do you run him out there most days? Maybe not this week, but once he kind of gets in there, do you run him out there every day at short, or do you?
I would play him pretty close. He's been taking a few balls over there. He even takes some at third now and then, just to keep, you keep that versatility. You keep it in your toolbox a little bit, the ability to play those positions. But I think if you're winning and he's making plays and it's your best lineup, I think you go with it probably more often than not. If you maybe a lefty, that's when you play Edmundo and Merrifield at second, stays at second. Or if you wanted to give Stott a day off his feet, but I just have a feeling that's going to end up being their best everyday lineup while they endure the Turner absence.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think out of respect for Sosa, I think they're going to give him a couple of more games just to play shortstop and just to give him some love. Just knowing sort of the DNA of how Rob Thompson works, I think he'll probably give him a little bit of time and then let maybe Stott take some ground balls over there, have Bobby Dickerson work with him a few days at shortstop, and then sort of make that gradual transition. I do believe if it goes for a month, and it sounds like it's going to be at least a month. I mean, 30 days is 30 days. That's 1/6 of the season. So you're talking about a significant amount of time, and I got no problem. Let's not forget, the Philadelphia Phillies went to the World Series, almost won the World Series with Stott at shortstop.
A rookie.
And he was a rookie, much like we saw years ago with Kevin Stocker going over there and playing, shortstop for the Phillies in '93. So, for me, I would slide him over there and then give, as Jim said, I think Whit Merrifield is going to be a really good player and an important piece of this. And I know Trea Turner's Trea Turner. When you start thinking about how this lineup's set up, you get another right-handed bat in there that's of quality. You get a guy who knows how to play. You get a guy who has been an everyday player, was an all-star last year. I mean, the signing is, as you said, Todd, very, very shrewd, pretty smart, and helpful. And that's what you sort of need. You need to have certain guys step up. I mean, what was it? Taijuan we ended up signing or we ended up trading for it when Utley went down. I mean, those things need to happen. You have to create some depth for your team.
That was a gift. That was a gift to Pat Gillick. Because Kenny Williams felt bad for Freddie Garcia, right?
I think it was.
Yeah.
I honestly think it was, because
it was like two baseball men doing each other a solid. Like, I think Kenny Williams felt bad that Freddie broke down so quick, maybe.
I got to believe that there had to be something to that, because, there was some question about the medicals on Freddie that we checked out, but, maybe a little shady.
I mean, that's it. They got their Taijuan and Merrifield before the season started, so they don't need to run out and get somebody. So again, that move looks pretty solid. And it also helps, of course, that you lose a player like Trea Turner, you have a rotation that is one of the best in baseball. It's the best in the National League. Last night, Taijuan Walker goes out and allows 1 run through 6 innings, and he gives up the 2-run home run in the 7th. Both games really through 6 innings, he pitched pretty well, and a lot of hand wringing, a lot of angst amongst the fan base about, what do you do with Spencer Turnbull? Now it sounds like he's in the bullpen, but it sounds like he maybe could pitch and start some games in Chris Sanchez's spot, but maybe not. Maybe he'll piggyback him, but then maybe he'll be a high leverage guy at some point, but they got to keep him stretched out. You got to keep him going 3 innings. I asked Rob last night, it was if Taijuan had gotten through the 7th, would he have finished the game with Spencer Turnbull? He said, no, we really want him to go 3 innings. I don't know what's going on or how it's going to work. It's all very confusing to me, kind of how it's set up. But I guess somebody has to take the hit, and it's going to be Spencer Turnbull. Do you guys, Ruben, how do you feel the Phillies are handling the Walker Turnbull situation right now?
I just think it's a fluid situation. I really do. I mean, listen, you can't have 6 guys. It's clear that guys like, Wheeler do not want to pitch on 6 days, 5 days rest.
Oh no.
That was very clear, and I don't blame them. I mean, these guys have their routines, and people talk about, well, that can't be an excuse. Well, it is an excuse. You imagine sitting on your rear end for 5 days or 6 days and you're not pitching. That's different for a pitcher, and especially when you're talking about elite athletes. Okay, so the Aaron Nolas and the Suarez's and the Wheelers of the world are want to stay in their routines. Now, they may benefit from this in August if they clinch early or something like that, where you want to give them a couple of days. That may be different, but you never have enough pitching. I love the fact that they have this problem because it's never a problem, never happens. Okay, I will tell you, knowing this business, that this problem never happens, and the fact that they have this is great. And I think, honestly, it keeps kind of Christopher Sanchez on his toes, because if he doesn't pitch well, he'll slide back into the long spot. I mean, that's what's going to happen. And I hope Chris Sanchez continues to pitch well or gets better, because I think his stuff is there. It's just he hasn't been super, super sharp with his command, which he was doing very well last year at the end of the year. I think he needs to get back to that. But if he falters, then they can flip-flop the guys. I mean, it's as simple as that, or they can piggyback them, or whatever it is that they need to do.
Right.
And so I love this problem. I wish I had this problem for years and years and years as a GM. And I think it's just a fluid situation where they'll try to manage it as best they can. At some point, someone's going to have a blow up game where they give up 5 runs in the first 2 innings, and they have to bring somebody in. Well, I'd like to have that guy. I like to have that guy and have that guy be sharp so they can stay in the game and perhaps come back and win it. So it's a great situation to be in. I'm envious, and I think it's a really, really great 2 signings. You start thinking about some of the things that they did in the offseason that are the smaller ones that become big, are Merrifield and Turnbull, and that's good stuff, man. And that's why Dave Dombrowski's a Hall of Famer.
Right.
I actually think, guys, it keeps 4 and 5, Sanchez and Taijuan Walker on their toes a little bit, because if Turnbull can slot in either place. And very interesting to hear Rob very clearly say last night, when we use Turnbull, we want it to be 3 innings. They want to keep him stretched, so he can slide into the rotation somewhere, and you might see him next week, depending on the matchup, start a game with Sanchez coming in behind him. So they're getting creative, and I think it has a chance of really working. So they obviously want to keep him sharp, because he has shown to be shown great value early, and they don't want to ice him, have him on ice, so the next time they go to him, he's not sharp, right?
Yeah, it's funny. Taijuan, I thought, said it best last night. I kind of fumbled the question. I said, have you talked to Spencer? Have you guys had to kind of hash it out? He goes, hash it out. What do we need to hash out? But then he made a great point. He goes, Spencer's pitched phenomenally in that spot, stepping at the last minute. He has pitched outstanding. And Taijuan said it himself. He will be back in the rotation at some point. It is a long season. You don't go an entire season with only 5 starters. You don't go an entire season with only 6 starters. I think the Phillies have not had fewer than 10 starters in a season since 2014. I think they had 9. They haven't had fewer than 9 since 2011 when they had 7. So the odds tell you, unless there's a miracle of health and production, that Spencer Turnbull will be starting again at some point for the Phillies this season.
I sure hope in August that they have the same problem. Can you imagine? I mean, in July and August, if you have the same problem, then you're literally happy as hell. I mean, if you're in the front office and you're Rob Thompson and you're Caleb Cotham, you're going, thank the sweet Lord for letting me have all these pitchers right now.
I think that's one of the reasons why this situation seems so convoluted and messy, is because it never happens. You don't have a guy that throws 172 innings one year, starts the season on the injured list, and people are going, how are you going to fit him in? Because the guy he signed to a 1-year, $2 million deal, who's been injured the last 4 years, has a 1.67 ERA and 6 starts. It's pretty wild.
I think Taijuan deserves a little respect for those,
sure,
for those 172, and for the way he's come out of the gate here with 2 solid starts. But obviously the 7th innings haven't gone his way, and you could make the argument that he should have been out of there earlier in both games. I think it's fair to make that point. I think it's fair to ask Rob Thompson that question. I mean, he was asked about that last night, whether, was it you that asked him or Scott Lovers?
I asked him if he'll have more pause, I guess.
That's right. Inning. Like, get him out of there after 6. And I think it's fair. And I bet you he will. I bet you all of a sudden, like, his little ding, ding, ding meter is going off, after 6 innings the next time. But Rob's not going to come out there last night and say, and say that. And it shows a lack of trust and faith in his pitcher, but I bet deep down inside he's going to view things a little differently after 6 innings. I think last night he framed it around, depends where we are, depends where his pitch count is. And those are all, fair points, but I think it's also fair to say, 6 innings, boom, we got to do something here. You kind of learn from that empirical evidence. And, but if you stack up Taijuan Walker, his 2 starts over his first 6 innings in each, I'll take that any day. Even though the stuff is not like dynamic and lighting up the radar gun and making everybody go ooh and ah, the location's been good. The results have been good.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I think out of respect to Taijuan and the fact that the team had some cushion and Rob Thompson's got a lot of confidence in the offense, I think he let him go to that 7th inning and try to get through to it. And I think that's the beauty of this offense, that they've given him a couple of cushions to be able to work with that and to give Rob Thompson, and also, it gives Rob Thompson an opportunity to find out. Let me find out if this guy can go through 7, if he can get up and down 6 times. I mean, and I think I don't think I have a problem with that. And the fact that he also trusts the guys in the back end to be able to clamp it down if they have some issues. I think that's what you saw in those first 2 outings. The other thing that I noticed about Taijuan Walker, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but his split is even working. It's his best pitch, and his split is not even working yet.
Right.
And I think that once he gets the feel for that split a little bit more, I know his velocities are in the 90-92 range. That's where he's going to be. He may ramp up a little bit. I know Rob Thompson talked about it. He may gain some more velocity as he goes, as he gets stronger through the season. That said, his best pitch is not even working yet. And he's still sort of managing through. Now, these are not great lineups, but there aren't great lineups in all of baseball. I mean, there's not that many great teams offensively that you have to really, quote unquote, worry about. Now, it will be different in the playoffs. It'll be different in September when games get tighter and tighter. But the man doesn't even have his best pitch, and he's still sort of managing through. So you got to give him a little love for that.
Yeah, he said he had a blister in San Diego, and that's why he didn't throw a splitter almost at all. I feel like in the debut, he said he got a better feel for it later in the game. Sunday night. So
it's a pitch he was throwing 30 or 40% last
30,
year,
yeah, a third of the time last year. He was going, it was all split. So it was interesting though, like he gave up home runs, that big home run that kind of spoiled both of his lines. It was the 90th pitch in both starts. The inning before he finished, this is what the kind of the gray area is, I guess. Like, I think in his first start, he finished the 6th inning at like 73 pitches. And last night he finished at 77 pitches. So you can see why Rob sent him out into the 7th inning, both of those. But again, now his next start, say he's at 76 going into the 7th inning. Do you send him back out there?
Ruben said, Rob wants to find out.
Yeah.
So, you send him out there twice to find out. And now when you make the move that, at the 70, how many was the 90th pitch? When you make a move at 88 pitches and he comes in after the game or the next day and says, hey, why didn't you show him? Why don't you stick with me? Boom. You point to where the numbers are and the results are. And you say, this is why going with the numbers. And I think that's a very legitimate use of the numbers there. Todd, I wanted to ask you, remember all those years, like, I was actually thinking about this driving home last night. Like when the Flyers are over and the Sixers are over, the Sixers get knocked out earlier this week. The NFL draft is over. It always seemed like early in the season there were those other sporting matters in town taking away the attention of the Phillies, and we'd sit down and we'd write, all right, the Phillies have 6-8 weeks now to really grab the town here.
Right.
Because training camp's not open yet with the Eagles, and they have 6 or 8 weeks to grab everybody's attention. And I've probably written that, and you've probably written that at times, but no need for that. This team has totally grabbed everybody's attention. Dating back to Bedlam at the Bank. But really, you're seeing some of these cold, misty nights and there's huge crowds there, and the attendance and the way this team has captured the town with its star power, with its good-looking young players, with its starting pitching rotation, and ultimately with the W's. I mean, that's what matters most. It's really becoming a lot of fun to watch.
It is, and I think that this is really setting up to be one of those summers where people are just going bananas over everything the Phillies are doing. And you're right. I was thinking about, for the last few years, they've gotten us such a slow starts. And so the Phillies fans were kind of grumpy and there's some angst about, are they going to be good enough? Well, now they have the best record in baseball. Not saying it's going to last, but they're on this remarkable pace. And the fact that they're winning and they're such a fun team, I think is going to only add to that fan interest. I don't know if you guys saw it on social media. I went back and I listened to the broadcast last night. They had Brandon Marsh mic'd up.
Yeah, I saw that.
And it was unbelievable. I mean, he was so great. And I know there's some people that don't like guys mic'd up and it's the middle of a game. And, Mike Schmidt wouldn't have done that, or, Greg Lazinski wouldn't have done that. I get it. But man, it was so much fun to listen to him talk and just show his personality. And I think that stuff feeds into it. And it was funny after the game, Marsh said he says, that's a lot harder than it looks, talking and playing at the same time. But he was great. He showed a lot of personality. That's what I think this team has. They have the hot start. You have the personality, and now they are the only show in town. And it's really building up to be, you can see everybody's radio at the Shore is going to be tuned into the Phillies game at night. Every back porch in southeastern Pennsylvania, South Jersey, and Delaware, everybody's going to be, it's got that vibe going to it right now.
I think the cool thing about it is you talked about the personality. They have their veteran guys. I mean, the Harpers, the JT Real Mutos, and the Schwarbers are sort of the stabilizers, and Turner, obviously, the stabilizers of the club. But then beyond that, you have guys like Marsh and Stott and those, Ranger Suarez, who are now starting to become real stars in the game, like really, really good players. And not only that, but they're good team players. Marsh did 2 things yesterday, pulled a couple of balls on the ground, a man on second base with nobody out, quality at bats. Now that, One resulted in a run, I think, and the other time it did not because Castellanos has been struggling. But they're doing the things that are necessary to win baseball games. They talk about being dogs, right? Well, they are. I mean, and they're backing it up because they're playing winning baseball. And then, you know, in the post-game interview, I listened to Harper. It's about the consistency of their level of play. And that's, they've been doing those things. You know, Stott didn't panic, you know, coming out of the chute, was struggling. He's starting to swing it again. I mean, the other guy was Alec Bohm, was the third one I was going to talk about. I mean, these are guys who are becoming stars and have a chance to be really, really high-level players. And you start stacking up all those guys in that lineup with the veterans, and you combine that with the quality of the young players coming through and the confidence that you see them have now. And boy, it's a great combination. It's a great combination to have, especially with this kind of pitching staff that we talked about.
No question. A great mix of veteran track record, veteran all-star caliber track record, and ascending. I'm almost saying ascending young player, but I think a lot of these guys have actually crossed the thresholds where you're a young player. Now you're a young established player, a young player. You know, they're young, but they're not so young. They're really right there and they're entering their prime. So a real nice mix. And I mean, you know, we're taping here on Monday morning, and what have they won? 16 out of 19 and 6 in a row, Todd?
Yeah, something like
I mean, they have a chance to get later on Monday, they have a chance for a 4-game sweep. That's really tough.
That's crazy. Crazy.
Really tough to do. But I mean, gosh, you got the surgeon on the mound, Zach Wheeler, right?
Yeah. And
he's not happy either. He's not happy with the way he's pitched.
You got a chance to do it. Get the 4-game sweep.
Yeah, you got to check. And you know what? And how about all the talk about the center fielder, Johan Rojas? No one's even talking about Johan anymore. And just as we talked about before, I mean, it's not that big of a deal that the kid's hitting 210 or whatever he's hitting,
right? Or
220, because he's doing what he needs to do. He's gotten on base a few times, gotten a couple of big base hits and drove in a run, you know, a couple of backbreaker hits. He's stolen a base here or there. He makes the plays in center field. You know, you don't need him to be an offensive juggernaut because you got the whole rest of the lineup doing that damage.
It's just the way they thought it could happen, that we should be good enough 1 through 8 that he can be a good functional piece in the lineup while continuing to improve and not hurt the team. And that's exactly what's happening. He was kind of in the center of it all last night. Michael Conforto hit a couple bombs out there, and
I was gonna say,
you know, I think he actually was a little too aggressive on the second one. He kind of overran it a little bit, but the fact that he got to those balls was something. And he'll catch those in the very not too distant future because he'll learn from both of those plays.
I thought Rob Thompson had an interesting comment asked about those plays. Someone asked him about, you know, did he overrun those balls and should he have caught those balls? He's like, you know, I think people need to remember that he is so good defensively. He's getting the balls that most human beings would never get to. And it's almost unfair to expect him to catch every rocket that is hit into the gap or over his head. It tells you how and I agree. I mean, you know, he probably should catch those. He would tell you he should have caught those balls maybe in some of those cases, but he's going to get close to a lot of balls that most guys.
And I guarantee you he's pissed off that he didn't make those plays.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Guarantee you, because he wants to be elite. He knows that's his calling card.
That's the sign of a player who's going to be good if you're ticked off that you don't make that play, and he'll go out and work on making. This is, to me, a fascinating week. Like I mentioned, you get a chance to get a 4-game sweep. You don't play a lot of 4-game series, and to sweep one, very, very, very difficult. Then you got a Toronto Blue Jays team coming in that is just not playing well, spinning its wheels, having a real tough time. And then you go to see Miami, which seems like they have entered full tank mode, and a chance to clean up down there. You know, again, we've said it a million times, but a chance for this team to even get some more padding and make some more hay. Don't you think it's a big week?
I think
They're all big.
it's right. Yeah, they're all big, but yeah, it's right for the taking for sure. The Blue Jays are struggling, and that Marlins team. I mean, they just got rid of Arise. They sent him packing.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
That
that's
that
a
Marlins
bad
team
team.
that's an embarrassment. What's happened ever since they let go of Kim Ng? That was a bad, we could talk about that at some other point. But I mean, they really, I think you're right. They're there for the taking, and hopefully they go down there. It's not a letdown for them because they literally will have nobody in the ballpark. They will not have anybody in the ballpark, and that sometimes mentally is a tough thing to adjust to. It's not an excuse,
no
but
question.
it's something they're going to have to deal with, and it's going to be something. Probably they have some family down there. I'm sure there's going to be lots of family going down there. My kids graduating from Miami down there. Happen to be down there.
Oh, cool.
It'll be kind of cool, but there's not going to be a whole lot of energy in that ballpark. It's going to be like a morgue out there, and so they're going to have to
Create their
step
own.
it up.
And it's good that they're so good at scoring early. First and second inning, they put a lot of runs on the board. You go out. I agree with you. I mean, that's why I think some of the reason they had trouble down in Miami over the years because that place is like a mausoleum. It's so quiet. It's there's no energy in the ballpark, but offense equals energy. Go out there early and put a couple on the board early every night. And I think that energy can carry you through because you need to make a good showing in that series. I think Atlanta is 5-1 against Miami. So in the division, you need to clean up against Miami
For sure.
while they're going to be this willing, compliant opponent that just, is giving away their best player or traded away their best player and seemingly, decided they're not going to build on a playoff appearance last year. But it all starts with Monday afternoon. I'm intrigued by this pitching matchup. I mean, Zach Wheeler and young man from Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Mason Black.
Mason Black making his major league debut. So for the Giants on Monday afternoon. So, I'm sure it's a thrilling moment for him and his family, but the Phillies are going to be out to get themselves a 4-game sweep.
Yeah, the concern always when we face a guy for the first time, especially the veteran guys, not so much the younger guys, these ascending players, but when they haven't seen somebody, it tends to be like a foreign object to them. But they've actually dealt with that pretty well this year. And if they can get an early lead for Zach, I think Zach's he's got a little vengeance in his game right now because he wants to be Zach Wheeler for the next several hours.
He was about as ornery as I've seen him after a start the other night in Anaheim, pitching on extra rest. He was so unhappy about his performance. We asked him, he limited the damage, and we asked him, did you take any positives out of doing that? And he basically said, I got nothing out of that. He was so mad about the way he pitched. So yeah, I think he's going to have a little bit extra edge to him tonight. So it's Mason Black versus Zach Wheeler tonight, and then the Blue Jays come into town for 2. Jose Barrios versus Christopher Sanchez on Tuesday. Maybe you'll see some Spencer Turnbull. Maybe you won't. Nobody knows. And then Wednesday it's Aaron Nola versus Chris Bassett, who's struggled a little bit this season. So, Ruben, you said you had something you wanted to show us before we sign off.
So my man Tony D'Amico, he's from Tojo Mushroom Farms, Mushrooms Incorporated. He is a card collector, and I told him I went to a golf tournament with Joe Watson up in BC years ago. A couple of years ago, and we kind of hung out together. This guy's a card collector. He said, I told him that my grandfather played in the major leagues, played in Cuba and in Mexico, not in the major leagues. And he got this card. He found it on a website in Cuba. It's an actual baseball card of Santos Amaro. It's insane. It's a legitimate baseball card of Santos El Canguro El Ganzo Amaro.
Now explain what Canguro Ganzo means.
Ganzo is goose, so that was one of his nicknames, and Canguro is kangaroo. So he had a couple of nicknames because he sort of looked like Dave Winfield. He's that type of like long 6'5", like kind of long.
What would be great?
Guy. So, pretty cool. So Tony's the man.
If we could go back in time and have the koala interview the Canguro. It would be like all these marsupials from Australia.
Ruben,
That'd
do
be
you
funny.
have any other like memorabilia of your granddad? Like,
I
or
do.
is that like you have a
I do
bunch?
have some. Remember when they did had the cardboard cutouts
Yeah.
in the ballpark? Well, they actually have one of El Canguro. Let me see if we can get it there. There he
Oh
is.
yeah, that
They
is
had one of
cool.
they had one of him, and they actually put it out there. How cool is that?
That is awesome.
Yeah, that was
That
one
is,
of them. But I have a bunch of pictures and stuff. But I have
okay.
a couple of pictures that people have mounted of my grandfather, who was a Hall of Famer in Cuba and in Mexico. Pretty cool. But for him to come up with this card, man, I mean, it's a legitimate card. You got
Well,
three.
it looks like it's
It's
professionally
crazy.
graded and everything. It's in the actual
Yeah,
case.
yeah.
You know,
They actually it's a grade 1. I guess I don't know what that means as far as quality is concerned. I don't know, but it doesn't matter. It's an
yeah.
actual playing card of my grandfather from like 1932 or something like that. It's insane.
That's rad, man. I love that. I love that. Well, guys, thanks for the time as always. Thank you for listening. If you are new to the Philly show, please subscribe. We come out twice a week, and we will be back later this week after the Blue Jays series. Thanks, guys.
Smell you later.
Smell you, Jim.